So at BlizzCon this year, we got the reveal of the first Diablo 4 expansion, which is going to be Diablo 4 Vessel of Hatred. We also got the reveal that this expansion is going to be coming with a new class, but we learned literally nothing about that new class. But if you followed my channel, about a few weeks or a month before BlizzCon, we got a bunch of potential leaks. And these leaks actually got a bunch of information right, including the name of the new area we're visiting in this expansion, which is actually a name never been used in Diablo before, so a chunk of this information is legitimately real. But with these leaks, we also got further information on the new class coming with the expansion. So I want to go over all of these possible leaks for what this new class could be, because these leaks were proven to have some information in them that was legitimately true. Now, all of this leaked information seems to stem from similar areas, but it's a bit of a mystery of where this all came from, because it seems like something behind the scenes that was never publicly released was able to leak some information, whether it's through data mining or getting access to something they shouldn't have access to. But the first public information I could find is an MMO champion post, and this post was actually the thing that had the name Nahantu in it, which if you didn't watch BlizzCon, Nahantu is the region we're going to, but that's the name the locals of the region know it as. Us players or players of previous Diablo games know it as the Kurast region. So some of the information in this leak is stuff that they actually have information on that they wouldn't know if they didn't have some leak. But then past this, there were some additional leaks that showed some slightly differing information, but I think most of the information we're going to get for the class is going to come from this leak. But every piece of information I could find that was claiming to have leaked information called this new class the Spiritborn. Some of them mentioned stuff like nature, some of them mentioned stuff like them having wings and being able to soar, but from the MMO Champion League, we actually get a decent explanation on some of the features of this class, and it also mentions that the Spiritborn will be using glaives. And this is actually brought up a few times, and I do think if this new class, if it's a Spiritborn, and if they use glaives, I pretty much guarantee you this doesn't mean that this class is only gonna be using glaives. I think there's a couple different options. First being the glaives are just a new weapon that they get to use, and they can use that with all of their other weapon choices, or glaives will be something that's part of their class, not actually a weapon that they would loot and equip. So maybe glaives are like a secondary weapon that's tied into their abilities and your class trees, but it's not an actual weapon you equip. Because there's no way there's gonna be a class in a Diablo game that can only use one weapon, and that's the only class that uses that weapon. That'd be terrible for gearing. And we get a few paragraphs giving some explanation on different things for this class. But remember, take all this with a grain of salt. So the release of the Spiritborn class opens up a new way to experience Diablo 4. Their unique abilities and playstyles offer fresh strategies for tackling Nahantu's challenges, whether you're navigating through the Restless Canopy or battling in the depths of the Kurast sewers. Playing as a Spiritborn in Nahantu promises an adventure like no other. The Spiritborn is a class deeply rooted in the elements of nature and the spiritual realm. They are the children of the wild, born from the spirit of the plains, sky, soil, and forest. Their souls are intertwined with the world around them, drawing strength from the very essence of life and nature. Their weapon of choice is a glaive, a symbol of their connection to both physical and spiritual realms. The glaive is more than just a weapon to a Spiritborn. It is an extension of their spirit, a conduit which through they channel their power. And this is one of the areas where I think glaives would be something tied to your class and not an actual weapon that you would loot. Like this would probably also be something tied to their unique class ability. Like you have a necromancer where their summons are their unique class mechanic. With a Spiritborn, it could be their glaives. The Spiritborn's power comes from two resources, vigor and allegiance. Vigor represents their physical vitality and endurance gained from their bond with the earth and sky. It fuels their physical abilities and allows them to perform feats of agility and strength beyond normal capabilities. Allegiance, on the other hand, represents their spiritual connection to nature and its creatures. It is through allegiance that they call upon the spirits of nature for aid, summoning ethereal allies or invoking powerful elemental spells. The Spiritborn are not merely fighters, they are guardians of balance. They stand on the boundary between the physical world and the spiritual realm, ensuring harmony between the two. Their mission is not to just defeat their enemies, but to preserve the natural order of things. In battle, a Spiritborn Spiritborn is a sight to behold. They move with the grace of the wind, their glaive dancing like leaves in a storm. Their attacks are fluid and relentless, like a river carving its path through stone. And when they call upon their spiritual powers, the air around them crackles with raw elemental energy. Whether you've drawn to their unique blend of physical prowess and spiritual power, or their noble mission to preserve balance in the world, playing as a Spiritborn offers a truly unique experience in Sanctuary. Now, after this leak was released, and after a lot of people read through this, I think a lot of people were thinking this was going to be very similar to a druid, but when I read through this, I think this is going to be something quite a bit different, even though it's tied to nature and spiritual realms, which are both things druids are kind of tied to. But when I read this, I think the Spiritborn is going to be more of this spiritual class that's probably going to be more on the spiritual side than on the more natural side. Like the druid is kind of on that more natural side, but something that I think may also be going on with this class is that they switch between these two elements. And we see these kind of classes in a lot of other games. Even something like Smite has classes like this. You have classes in MMOs, say in World of Warcraft, you have a priest where they could be shadow or holy, completely different sides of a spectrum, but still in the same class. That's what I'm thinking Spiritborn may be. It may have this naturalistic side or this spiritual side that's from the spiritual realm. So there may be a thing where in their gameplay, you're switching between kind of two stances with two different elemental properties. And one would obviously be very spiritual, and maybe they have a bunch of more spiritual based abilities, and one would be the more natural side where their feats of agility and strength would lie. And I think that would also make sense with their two different resources, their vigor and allegiance. When they would switch between their two different types of forms, they would have a different resource for each different one. And I think classes or playstyles like this in other games usually end up being very interesting, but they also usually end up being much more difficult to play, which I do think is something Diablo 4 could pull off really well. And that's pretty much all of the leaked information we have for this class, but I do think there's a good possibility that that's what this class is actually going to be, because like I mentioned, with a lot of these leaks, they got a lot of information right, and they also even got some information that they couldn't know or guess that they got right. Like I mentioned, even the different names are stuff that haven't been used before that were used once this expansion was actually revealed. They got the location of the expansion right, and a bunch of other information was pretty much right on the money. So I think it's a pretty good chance that at least some of this information for the Spiritborn is going to be correct. Now, a bunch of this could change. The name of the class could change. Some of the elements of how the class is built could change as well, but I would be very surprised if there's not some elements of this that are within the class. And I would also not be surprised if basically all of these things end up being true. Because even though a lot of people want a holy class, a lot of people want a paladin, we've known since before Diablo 4 was released that the first new class added into the game was going to be something we've never seen in other Diablo games. They wanted to do something completely new, and I think this type of class sounds pretty interesting, especially if it has that element where you switch between like two different forms with a different resource for each different form. That could be a way to bring in something new into the Diablo universe, a new class, but make it very different and very interesting. Because I think that base gameplay of Diablo 4 is probably the best in the Diablo-like ARPG genre, so I think adding in more elements that play into that really good base combat could be incredibly interesting. But that's pretty much all I want to go over, so thanks for watching.